Hello everyone, my name is Meredith and welcome to my channel. Today we're talking about brainstorming. With NaNoWriMo coming up, I have just started prepping my book. I know it's a little bit late into Preptober to just be starting, but here we are. So I have 10 days to prep my book, and I've been thinking a lot about brainstorming, how I'm going to do it effectively, and how I'm going to get the most out of it for the small amount of time I have to pull a book together. So today I wanted to share with you my tips for brainstorming quickly and effectively to get the most out of your sessions and your time. The first thing that I want to talk about is mindset. Brainstorming you can do in small chunks where you're only thinking about it during that time. But what I found really effective was to always have my story kind of ruminating in the back of my mind, no matter where I was or what I was doing. I'm always looking for inspiration. I'm always looking for ideas that I can collect that can spark something that'll help me move forward in my story. And the basic idea here is that the more time you spend thinking, the more ideas that you're going to find. And so putting your time into your story and your brainstorming when you're not in a brainstorming session, but when you're just going about living your life, is a really good way to pull in some extra time of actually finding new ideas. Some ways that you can do this are taking productive breaks. So that would look like anything where you can be thinking about your story, but doing something that actually gets something else done, like dishes, vacuuming, just general cleaning, laundry, commuting. So if you're driving or if you have a walk that you have to go to somewhere, making sure that you use that time to be thinking. Rather than letting your mind wander, you're always training it to pull back and to think about your story when you have those extra nuggets of time. This isn't always necessary, but I found it super helpful to pull in those extra ideas. I got so many ideas when I was just going around living my life, and I would just be randomly thinking about something, and then it would spark an idea for my story because I was always in the background looking for ideas. And one of the best ways that I found to spark ideas when I was doing other stuff that I need to get done in life is to watch writing craft videos. I would always have on writing craft videos if I was doing my cleaning or my commuting or whatever I was doing that I wasn't able to sit down and dedicate time to it, but I was able to have audio input. And that allowed me to focus on my story and on writing in general. So if I was just like randomly doing the dishes and I didn't have any audio input, my mind really wanders and it's kind of hard to pull it back, right? There's so many pressures in life and so many details you're constantly thinking about. I have to email so-and-so or whatever, and thinking about your story gets away from you. It helps me to focus on my story rather than wander off. And the last thing about having a mindset of cultivating ideas when you're not able to sit down and actually do a session is always being able to write down ideas and being dedicated about writing down the ideas that you do find. I have a notes folder on my phone that I just go in there and I type down my notes really, really quick. Anything that'll spark that idea back, because ideas are so fleeting and you need to just like grab them, capture them, make sure that they don't slip away from you when you have a good one. And it just takes like 2 seconds to open up your phone and just like type it in. So make sure that you're disciplined about doing that. Okay, those are my tips for when you're not sitting down and actually doing a brainstorming session. So what happens when you have time and you're like, this is my writing time, but I'm going to use it for brainstorming because that's the stage of writing that I'm in and it's all part of the job. How do you use that time effectively? Here are my tips. And for this section, it's mostly atmosphere. How do we create an atmosphere where our brains can go for ideas, they cannot feel exhausted, and they can enjoy what they're doing? Number one is music. It does two things for me. Number one, everyone in this generation has attention span problems, and they're always like looking for a new tab to open, looking for a new notification. And it's just the way that our brains are wired these days with social media. And so I'm always finding myself like when I'm trying to brainstorm, I'm just staring at the blank page, trying to pull something out of nothing. And I'm always looking to click somewhere. And what music does is it kind of gives me that like dopamine hit that I am trying to get from clicking on other things and finding notifications other places. And like when you have the right song playing, it's like your brain's just like eating it up. And so music helps me to stop having that like agitated, like I want to click on something else feeling. And the second thing that music does, obviously, is it's going to pull you into the atmosphere of what you're trying to do. So obviously make sure you have on the right song that's going to work for you. I have a playlist called Study, and it's songs that I've collected that are like 3+ hours long, and I'll just put that on so that I can't get any ads. I can't switch to a song that's not the right mood. So it's going for hours and hours, and I know that it is the right feeling and I can just ride that wave and not have the music at all mess me up, but bring me into the space that I need to get to. Okay, this one is a little bit non-traditional, but I think that this works. What it is lighting. I always find that I brainstorm better in dim lighting. And sometimes I'll even turn off all the lights and do it in the dark. And basically, it's like a sensory deprivation. And so it shuts off the world and I can't see anything else. I can't get distracted. It makes it feel like I'm cocooned in nighttime, and it just gives you this illusion of a bubble where you can really concentrate. So it's blocking out the world, it's blocking out visual cues, and it's really just like allowing you to get deep into the work that you're doing. Okay, moving on to the next tip, which kind of goes along with the lighting situation, but it's that you need to find the right time of day, because there are certain times of the day when my brain is so much more open to brainstorming and times where it refuses to put anything down. And it might mean changing around your schedule or doing something really unorthodox, like getting up super early or staying up really late. But I find that if I try to brainstorm in the middle of the day, nothing happens. My ideas are just not as good. They are just kind of mediocre. I'm not trying that hard. I'm not able to get into that like really good flow state. And how I figured this out was by doing Haruki Murakami's writing routine. So this routine had me getting up at 4 in the morning. And while I was doing this routine, I wasn't drafting, I was brainstorming. As much as it sucked, it actually made me realize that waking up early in the morning is my prime brainstorming time. Because at night, I get really sleepy, and if I try to brainstorm, I usually just fall asleep, especially if it's dark and there's music. I just kind of knock out. So if I do it in the morning, I get this really great deep work state, and every single morning of the times when I was waking up at 4 and 5 a.m. to brainstorm, I got like huge light bulb moments where things crystallized, the story came together. Like this story was created at 4 and 5 in the morning, day after day. So for you, it might not be that same way. You might really, really like brainstorming at night, and you might feel creative and restful at night. Or maybe you're an afternoon person who kind of feels that like winding down in the afternoon, and you want to harness that to like wind down like into the depths of your mind and search for ideas at that time. Maybe you're a lunch person who wants to go and do your brainstorming. That would not work for me, but figure out a time of day that is really just the best for getting into a mental flow state where you're shutting out the world completely. I just really find it so much easier in the morning, and it doesn't have to be 4 or 5, depending on your schedule, right? Like if you get in 2 hours between like 7 and 9, and that's ideal for you, go for that. The next tip that immediately follows after that is duration. Again, you need to figure this out for yourself. What conditions is your brain going to work best under? For me, I need hours and hours of stretching time where I don't feel at all rushed. There's no pressure of anything immediately coming up that I need to worry about. It's a complete oasis from everything else in my life. And that's why the early morning time or late at night time work well, is because you know that there's a lot of time stretching between now and when you need to do something or something's required of you by an outside pressure. But I know that a lot of people really like writing sprints, or you could definitely do a brainstorming sprint where you say, okay, I'm going to take 15 or 20 minutes and I'm just going to write out anything that comes to me, and I'm just going to like push through for 15 minutes, and that's all I have to do for now. And then that'll get your brain in gear because it's not thinking, oh, I have to do this for hours and hours. But that doesn't work for me. I think of brainstorming more as like a chance to explore my own mind and the world. And it's a time where I really, really enjoy and just want to stretch out as long as possible. And the real reason for that is because of deep work. Deep work is pretty much the opposite of sprinting, and I kind of want to do a whole video on this because I think it's a really important topic for writers, especially with everybody being really into sprinting, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I think for brainstorming especially, there's something really valuable about being able to get deep into a place where your mind is just running. It's revved up and it is just going to run with ideas. And it's not a state that your mind's normally in because you're more in like a practical mode of, okay, I have to do these tasks and I have to get through these things, and there are people to talk to and you're socializing. So there are different muscles that your brain is using, but the deep work muscle is so important for brainstorming. And when I was exercising deep work and I was getting into a flow state every single day, that is when the light bulbs come. And you need time to get into that. You can't just snap your fingers, get into it for 10 minutes, and then pull out. That's not what deep work is. You need that time to get down into it and then to stay there long enough to get some good ideas and to really let your mind go for it. And I think it's a really important tool that everybody should use, and that some people don't really focus on because they think that they can do it all by like essentially skimming the surface of their brain and of their potential for ideas. But if you really dive all the way down and you just spend time down there in a flow state, you will be amazed at the stuff that you can come up with. Okay, those are my tips for creating the right atmosphere for your brain to run with ideas. And the next couple are tips for actually what do you do when you sit down and you have the atmosphere, you've got the lighting, you've got the timing, you've got the music, you've got the right duration set, but you're looking at a blank page, and what do you do now? So I've got a couple tips for that. Number one, get organized. You need to know what questions you need to answer in this specific session. Ask yourself questions that you need to then develop answers to and focus. I always write a list of questions and then say, I'm going to answer these 3 today, and I just come up with answers for them. So that gives me a good scaffold rather than a blank page. I do this in 2 ways. Number one is I have a note document that I am allowed to put anything down, just anything goes, anything for character, plot, world building, whatever, like history of the place that's not actually going to be in the book, scenes that I want to put in the book. It's like any idea I could possibly have goes in this document, and it's organized by date. And so it's not organized by topic, because when it's organized by topic, you're going to be shuffling around in the document trying to figure out, okay, where does this topic go? But the nature of books is that they're just so interconnected that it's hard to fit things neatly into topics when they're all merging together and they're creating this beautiful tapestry of what a book really is. And so I like to just do it by date and then not worry about organizing and just write out my thoughts as they come to me, but answering those questions that I ask myself. And if I go off topic, if I go racing in a direction that I didn't think I was going to go, I let myself go there. I always just follow wherever my brain's going, as long as it's a productive direction. And then the other way that I actually do this is by using 10 ideas. I talk about this a lot, so you've probably heard me say it before, and it's my journaling video, and so it's one of the journals that I keep pretty regularly because it is just perfect for brainstorming good ideas. This is the book that I use. It is kind of ever present. I just bring it with me everywhere because I'm always trying to brainstorm new ideas for things. But the basic idea, without going into it and boring you too much, is just that the first idea is never going to be the best idea. It's that it's the first one, it's the easy one, your brain is lazy. And so in order to get to some really good ideas, you need to write out like 10 ideas. And so if you have that question topic and then you need to answer it, try answering it 10 times and find an answer that is not lazy and that's actually genuinely original or interesting beyond the first thing that you could think of. So this is what I do, and usually a good idea comes around 4, 5, 6, and I keep going out to 10 just to make sure that there's not a better one still in there. And yes, it's definitely something that takes more energy, it takes more work, but this is hard work and we're trying to get to these good ideas. Okay, those are my tips for brainstorming. I hope they're helpful. I'm going to use a lot of them today and for the next 10 days as I am hardcore brainstorming my story. And it was so good to go through them and just think through, okay, what is the best way to brainstorm? What have I found that works for me? I hope that you can take these tips and find something that works for you and have a great brainstorming session. Have a great time doing NaNoWriMo while being prepared with some really good quality ideas. Thanks so much for watching. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it so the YouTube algorithm can suggest it to other people who might like it. And if you're not already, go ahead and subscribe. I will be posting a bunch more Preptober content and, of course, my NaNoWriMo drafting. It's going to be a wild time full of tons of writing. I hope you stick around for it. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.